big pillars that basically come are, one is career growth, and the second one is the purpose. I think humility is something that really differentiates, a leader. Humility and being down to earth are very, very important. Yeah, so I think the HR function's role in actually looking at configuring and reconfiguring these roles is going to be very, very important.
Masters Union bridges the gap between students and the industries through our CXO sessions. In today's series of a CHRO Exchange program, we have Mr. Manjul Tilak, who's the Chief Human Resource Officer of Piramal Enterprises Limited. And he has a wealth of experience of almost over 3 decades, having worked in Kotak Mahindra Bank, and he's currently the CHRO of Piramal Enterprises. So, thank you so much, sir, for joining us. We're really excited to hear a lot of your insights.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure being here, and thank you for the opportunity. And I'm very excited about this.
Thank you so much, sir. So, for our first question is that how did you discover your passion for human resources? Were there any stories, any anecdotes that, students can benefit from to, how they can achieve that sort of a eureka moment, how they would want to go into human resources?
So, Shonal, would you want a pageant competition kind of an answer or the real answer?
Absolutely, sir, the answer.
Okay, right. So, my journey basically in HR happened because while I was making grand plans about life, I think life happened by the side. I was making many plans about how my career should be panning out, but I kind of got admission in a course, in Punjab University. That was the year 1996. And my belief in destiny, I think, has become very strong after that. Because it's, what started as a chance encounter, has come into or has become a career spanning 28 years. And I think there are 28 years more to go.
Absolutely, sir. So, for our next question is around leadership and strategy. Since many of us students have had an experience of over, say, 2 to 3 years, even 4 years, and now they're, building on to become middle management to soon leadership. So, what strategies do you use to identify and nurture talent across various departments and sectors of conglomerates, since you've worked with many now?
Sure. So, I think the Piramal Enterprises Limited, Shonal, we are practically about 3 businesses. Okay, so one side we've got retail, the second one is the wholesale, which typically is into real estate lending to wholesale or large developers, and the third is the funds business, right? So the whole strategy, the talent strategy, the foundation that we have are a few frameworks. The first framework that I like to talk about is our talent management framework, in which the broad contours are that, in each of these businesses, we make sure that there are platforms and opportunities where people and talent is discussed, right? There are deep conversations that we have about the people who are working with us. We look at, what their potential is, what their aspirations, etc. are, and then there is a strategy that we draw around, cohorts of what kind of career experiences we should give to them, what sort of learning interventions we should give to them. So while, the broad contours are the same, each of these businesses, we run bespoke sort of solutions. In the funds business, where the number of people are lesser, we can afford to do, these deep conversations about each and every individual in that business. Whereas on the retail side, where, the number of people is very large, while the concept remains the same, but, the way we execute this becomes a little different, with maybe the top couple of bands being discussed in detail, but for the front line, there are these other career management and career growth kind of programs, right? So, bespoke sort of solutions for each of these businesses, where the contours remain the same, the fundamentals remain the same, but the execution points become a little different. So these are things that we do for our businesses to make sure that we are able to identify as well as nurture talent the way we want them to.
That's really insightful, sir. So, sir, going on to talent development. So, retaining talent has always been sort of a challenge for many companies. So, can you let us know of how Piramal Enterprises has mastered and Piramal as general have mastered it?
So, I wouldn't claim that we mastered, the art of retaining people, but yes, I think, a lot of our energies are focused in this direction. You would come across many studies, Sonal, and you would see that a lot of these studies typically talk about 2 things. And these are the indicators whether people will leave the organization or will stay with the organization. And I think the 2 big pillars that basically come are, one is career growth, and the second one is the purpose. Okay, let me come to the purpose first. Piramal happens to be a very, very strongly led, purpose-led organization. I don't know if you're aware that our philanthropic arm, which is called Piramal Foundation, has close to about 5,000 employees working for it. Okay, and these people are actually working at the grassroots level in the most backward of districts of India. And our purpose typically is doing well and doing good. Okay, so which basically means that we are all in this business to do something for the society. Our linkage to Piramal Foundation or our purpose is very strong, and that is what we are striving to build in our employees. The premise is that if we have to do good for the society, we have to do well as a society. We have to do well as an organization, which basically means that while Piramal Foundation continues to do the work they have to do, as an organization or as a commercial organization, we have to make sure that we are able to generate the numbers and the profits so that we are able to support Piramal Foundation. Yeah, so I think that connection with purpose is very, very strong, and that is what we are striving to build. The second one is on growth. I spoke about the talent management framework that we have. So while there are these talent management framework and its various parts which are running, what we are also trying to do is democratizing the growth of people within their own hands. So while that means that we are trying to strengthen our internal growth programs like the internal job posting program, but what we are doing very interestingly is set up milestones in such a way that people can themselves, our employees can themselves decide how much they want to grow in a particular year. Okay, so there are these milestones set. If you meet these milestones in 6 months' time, we are very happy to give you growth. If it's up to you. If you meet these milestones in 9 months period of time, you get growth after that. Yeah, so we are trying to tell people that you can now design your own destiny. Grow in 6 months' time, grow in 9 months' time, grow in 12 months' time. It's all up to you. Yeah, so I think these are a couple of things that we are trying to do on the growth side of making sure that people are choosing their paths of growth and their lines of growth typically.
Got it. So this came on to my next, it shadows my next question, is that what drove you to Piramal Enterprises and what aspects of the company's mission resonated with you? And it's absolutely clear what does. But sir, if you would like to add anything, we'd love to hear.
Sure. No, I think very clearly the strongest magnet for me, I worked for Kotak for about 17 years, by the way, Shonal, right? And the strongest magnet that was for me when I was looking at joining Piramal was the fact that this is one place which just does not have purpose written on just on paper. I think there were many things, very credible body of work that they had. I talked about 5,000 people on the ground who are working for Piramal Foundation, and not just that by the way, I think the leadership that Piramal Foundation has, and you can go look up who are the kind of people associated with Piramal Foundation at the leadership level. It's the who's who of the corporate world. Right, so which means that it is something that we really hold close to our heart. Our chairman, Mr. Ajay Piramal, Anand Piramal, the entire family speaks about seva bhav or the willingness to serve selflessly. And I think there are many platforms on which they would talk about this very openly. I think that was inspirational for me. That was very motivating for me, and that I think was one of the reasons why I kind of came onto the Piramal brand.
Wow, so I think that's the first time I've heard such a detailed discussion about this. And so moving on to my next question is around leadership lessons. If you can share one or many valuable leadership lessons you learned during your phase here at Piramal and even at Kotak earlier, and how has it influenced your approach to your role, and how has it changed you as a person?
So I think the most important leadership lesson that I've learned, and this is amongst many things that you see the leaders in action, I think humility is something that really differentiates a leader from the rest. And I think the ability to genuinely listen, to care for, and to actually be able to look at another point of view irrespective of wherever you are in the hierarchy. I think that is something that I think is really, really differentiating for as a leadership lesson for me. And I think that is something that, I've tried to imbibe. I wouldn't know if I've done, well on that or not, but I think, that is something that has really influenced me as a manager, as a leader, or whatever you might call it. Humility and being down to earth are very, very important things for me.
Absolutely. So those are essential units of becoming a leader. So moving on to the future of human resources. So what excites you the most about what is coming, like the role of AI and automation and whatnot is coming up, and what are the challenges or the opportunities it might provide?
So I think the whole HR function is kind of being challenged right now with the onslaught of artificial intelligence. The kind of debate that happens on hybrid working. There are people who are completely supporting it. There are people on the other side, and you see every day you see one article or the other where So I think that's the second part, and the third big thing that is coming is the extended reality. So XR as or artificial reality as whatever people call it. I think this is a very, very challenging time for HR, because a lot of organizations would look at this function to show them the way and to be able to help them make that necessary shift, right? So I think this will, and how artificial intelligence is on a daily basis, kind of coming up with new and new models, new and new use cases, and therefore I think this is the time when HR will have to step up, understand the whole environment, ecosystem, and the entire play around it, and be able to give solutions to the organizations. I think this is going to be a very challenging and an interesting time for HR.
Absolutely, sir. So I believe that even with the coming of AI and so forth, the human touch is something that will always be there. I mean, it's people persons, right? It's human resources. I believe that could also be there.
What I'd like to add here, Shonal, is that the whole configuration of roles will change, right? In each role that you see, there will be certain elements that organizations would start relying on artificial intelligence to do. Okay, but there could be certain elements of that role which only a human can do. Yeah, so I think the HR function's role in actually looking at configuring and reconfiguring these roles is going to be very, very important. That is where the HR functions a real test will come, or whether they'll be able to give that sort of solutions to their businesses or not.
Great, sir. So now, sir, diving into a little bit about your personal and professional growth, what are some of your favorite methods of staying informed about industry and industry trends, and how do you own your leadership skills through that?
So, thanks to the role that I'm holding, Shonal, I do get a lot of invites for events and conferences, etc. And I think these are great platforms and opportunities for one to hear it directly from experts. And I try using or utilizing those sort of opportunities. Another good thing is that you go and make connections over there. So which means that if there is something that you want to know about or talk about later, there are people that you can bounce this off with. But I think the larger part that I see, Shonal, is that in Piramal, we've got a couple of world-class leaders. Okay, and I think leadership and action, when you see these leaders acting and performing, I think there can't be a better leadership lesson. So I do rely a lot, I do observe the leaders in Piramal, and I think there are many, many things that one can learn from them, and that is what I try to do.
That's so good to hear, sir. So, I think you mentioned about destiny and being part of Punjab University. So, if we can go back to childhood influences, can you share a positive childhood experience that shaped your outlook on life and work, as you had mentioned?
Sure, I think that's a good question. So, my father was he was an engineer, okay, and he was working for a state electricity department in the north of India. I think the growing up years, Shonal, was about living in a colony, okay, and that taught me about community. There were so many things that we all did together. There was fun, and a lot of things we did together as a community. And I also saw that my father and his colleagues really burnt the midnight oil when there were critical projects, engineering projects that were going on. So therefore, I think I get a lot of feedback about my work ethic and my ability to kind of connect with a large section of people who I work with. I think these must have something to do with my childhood experiences, and I do think that there must be a huge impact because of that.
Absolutely, sir. So now we move on towards advice for all the young professionals out there who are hearing this podcast. So, what advice would you give to someone who is yet to venture into the world of human resources, someone who's already set foot and is aiming for the leadership position?
Interesting. HR, Shonal, according to me, has transformed now into a completely outcome-based function. Okay, it's an outcome-focused function, which means that the organization expects an HR person also to deliver like they would expect any business to deliver on clear, crisp metrics like retention, engagement, diversity, and the like, right? So, which means that if a person is coming into HR because they expect something soft and they think that I like to interact with people, therefore I want to be in HR, I would advise them to think twice, because this function is now transformed into data, analytics, very, very clear, trackable, quantifiable measures, right? So therefore, that kind of an outlook will always help a person who's stepping into HR or has already stepped into HR.
Absolutely. So I'm sure there are a lot of students and a lot of young professionals out there who love to take mentorship lessons directly from you. So, sir, that's pretty much about it. We'd love to have some sort of a final message or some message or mentorship advice you'd like to give to the students, and then we could conclude the session.
Sure. Shonal, I'm nobody to give advice to people, but what I could, what I've seen in my 28 years experience and what I see youngsters talk about is I think it's very, very important that they choose the organization that they join. I would say very carefully. Because if the culture in that place is right, and of course no place is perfect, you would find issues everywhere, irrespective of the size and scale of the organization. But if most of the things in that organization are right, then what people will have to concentrate, or they will concentrate on, is only on their performance, right? Otherwise, if the culture of that place is not right, it doesn't smell right, it doesn't have an all-rounded growth kind of an environment, humility and all those things, then I think they might have to look at many other factors other than their own performance. Yeah, so choose your organization wisely. There are great organizations, and I think a lot of organizations have transformed themselves into being world-class organizations. So therefore, choose the organization carefully and make that choice very, very judiciously. That's my final word.
That's really important, sir, and we're so glad to have it. And thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
Thank you, Shonu. Thank you for the opportunity once again.
Thank you so much.